Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest episode of Hangin With The Chads. I'm Chad Springer, joined as always by the great, amazing, greatest tag team partner ever, Chad Boudreaux. Boudreaux, how the hell are you doing today?
It's been a rough weekend, man. I don't really want to get into it from yesterday, but yeah, I'm excited about today's show, man. I really am.
Hey, I'm really excited too. And, we have been blessed and fortunate enough to have our great guest that we have today. He's Coach Mike Bargen. He is the special assistant to the Indiana men's basketball head coach. He has a great background in coaching, a lot of wonderful stops. We're going to have a wonderful story with him today. And honestly, Boudreaux, without further ado, let's bring in Coach Mike right now. Coach Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, thank you for being here. Good afternoon. Hopefully, your weather is a little bit more pleasant up where you're at than ours is. It's still almost damn 90 degrees down here in Florida. But this is Coach Mike Bargen. He is the special assistant to the head coach at Indiana University. And Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're getting a touch of what you guys are getting. It's a little not this time of year. We don't usually get this hot up here, but I guess it's better than the cold. We'll take it for what it is.
Yeah, and I have family in Indianapolis, so every time they send me pictures of snow, I get very jealous of that. I haven't seen snow in about 5 years. Down here in Florida, I think if it snowed, I think the state would stop running. You guys are barefoot uphill 2 ways. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we got Coach Mike here. Coach, if you want to give a quick little background with your coaching history and your stops along the way for our listeners to know, feel free.
Sure. Played collegiately at Marquette University. Kind of ended up there by accident. Wasn't one of the places that I would ever predicted for myself. But from there, then you just start spanning out and meeting people and all the things. My father was a college coach, so that's kind of knew that's the direction I wanted to head. Ended up back in Nebraska as a graduate assistant at Creighton University. That's where I met Coach DeVries. We worked together for 3 years there. And then went back to my original childhood, which was junior college basketball. I grew up as a junior college kid. My dad coached in 2 different spots while I was growing up, and ended up back in Kansas at Butler Community College, just probably 60 miles from where I had spent year 2 to 10 in my life. So that was kind of neat, just being back in the area. Spent 11 years there, was an assistant coach for 3, head coach for 8. And then was fortunate to link up with a college teammate of mine, Brian Wardle at Bradley University, and spent 10 years there, which is, not the norm in mid-major basketball. Either you're failing or, succeeding. You're always kind of in flux. But Peoria was awesome to our family. Brian is a great boss. He was awesome to work for. And we just had a great situation that, just really wasn't looking for anything else, and got a random phone call on a Sunday night from Coach DeVries. And by Monday afternoon, it was a done deal, and I was here by Thursday. So been awesome since I've been here. It's a dream job. I mean, it's just, everybody says it. It's Indiana, right? Like, everybody just gets it at that. And it truly is. The support is unbelievable. The facilities are unbelievable. It's Big Ten basketball. Like, what an awesome opportunity for myself and our family.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And, Indiana is now, yes, it's always been a basketball school, but even their football team is doing outstanding right now. That huge victory last week over Illinois. I'm happy to hear that things are going good. I've been to Indiana once at the college. It was back in like 2013. I think I was still in the Marine Corps. I just randomly went to my family and then was like, oh, let's just go to Indiana. And they took me there. But, we're here to learn some things from you, Coach. And my first question I'm going to have for you is, it's the topic everybody wants to hear about, is NIL and the effects that it's having in college. I mean, it's trickling down into the high school ranks now. As a coach, as, someone who's been doing this for as long as you have, what are your thoughts on NIL, and how do you go each season, trying to build connections with the athletes, knowing that at any time, thanks to NIL, they can just pop away? And, how do you set those expectations and those meaningful relationships?
Well, I think it's still a very fluid situation that everybody's trying to get their hands on and trying to figure out how exactly is this going to play season to season? Because it feels like the rules just kind of constantly change on us to where we're uncertain of like, what is your budget? What do you have to spend? How much is that certain player going to be valued at? Because, is there a cap to it? And I think you're starting to hear more and more coaches come out in frustration and just stating like, can you just give us the rules? Like whatever they are, just give us some parameters to operate within, because every single year seems to be something different. From the beginning of it, I would have told you as soon as it came into the picture, coaches are creative people. Like they're really creative at what they can get done. And so it was headed this direction from the beginning, in my opinion. Where it stops, I have zero idea. And, you're just seeing things that like creative ways to make your, team or your university in an advantage. And, everybody's kind of stealing ideas from the next guy, and everybody's kind of trying to cover their cards up and not show exactly how they're doing it. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing is everybody just wants to know what are we playing under? Like what is our parameters?
Boudreaux, a follow-up question?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of what you hear all the time when you watch like College Game Day, or you're watching coaches talk about it before the season. But what are they telling you, if anything, about where can you operate? Is there any guidelines whatsoever, or is it just free for all right now?
Well, the current situation is you have the rev share and everybody's opted in, of the major universities or major conferences. Each university decides what their cap is per se on football, basketball, the other sports. And that number just, is a variable to each school. Now you got the schools that don't have football, that they can still go to the extreme of the cap, where you're seeing some of the Big East schools, like for a few years, should have a major advantage in theory. If they're going to let them spend $20 million on a team, that's a huge advantage. So it comes down to each school and what their priorities are. And we've felt like from our beginning here that we've gotten tremendous support from our administration, and they want to give us every opportunity to be at the very highest level in this stuff. But again, understanding like, okay, how does the NIL Go piece fit into it? And like the IA evaluation or AI evaluation of each individual's deal, how are we really going to get a sense for what that's going to be? And, the ability to recruit kids still, because at the end of the day, you can look and say they're just going to take the most money. I don't believe that's true. I think they want, all the like, I want to feel good about the situation. I want a relationship with the head coach. I want to see where you're going to develop me. I want to know how many minutes I'm going to get from my first foot on campus. Oh, and I also have a price tag that, we got to blend into that mix. I think it oversimplifies it when you just say the kids just want the most money. In my 4 months here, I don't think that would be the case at all.
And you mentioned analytics, and we was going to get into this later about the analytics of the game. Are y'all actually using like the analytics of, say, you got this 5-star phenom at let's just say a Montverde or something like that? Like, are you actually, like, when you say analytics, are you like looking at like, how much he potentially could generate to your program, or how long he's going to stay there potentially? Maybe he might be a one and done going pro. Like, is that how you're using the analytics, or is it just from like just the common knowledge of the game type deal?
I think you got to take analytics with a grain of salt a little bit. I think numbers are important, but I think numbers can be skewed, and I think you can manipulate situations to make the argument for what you want, right? Like, if you want to play a certain player, you can overvalue certain things. It's just like, okay, think about the ranking systems within college basketball that go off of point differential and strength of schedule and all the things. Well, if one metric decides that margin of victory is more important than who you beat, then you see what you see right now, which is teams manipulating the net to blow out lesser teams and play not easy non-con schedules to jump way, way up in the net. to, have a stronghold as they get into conference play. And so it really comes down to like analytics can be manipulated in that way. So you got to be a little careful in how you utilize them. And in terms of recruiting, trying to use analytics in a high school realm to translate to a college game, that's really difficult in my opinion, just because you're playing with apples and oranges. And I think there's certain things that translate. I think everybody's always agreed that rebounding is always a translatable one. If you're a great rebounder in high school, you're going to be a great rebounder in college. It's just your motor doesn't change, right? Mm-hmm. Certain things don't translate. And just you got to be able to find what fits in, one, the way you want to play, and one, the other is how that player best fits into your system.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And Udra, a follow-up?
Well, you brought up something about like in the locker room or when you're dealing with the athletes of who's going to get how much and all that stuff. Like, what kind of goes into that? Since we are talking about the NIL, like, is it hard for you guys to like face the deal with keep everybody together in the locker room when you might have point guard over here that's making 10 times more than what your center's making?
Sure. I guess the best argument for that, or the way we would explain it, is you got to recruit character. And if you got kids that's the only thing that matters to them is money, then they probably aren't a great fit for us. I'll go back to my junior college days. When I first got to Butler, we were on partial scholarship. So you basically got books and tuition, and your room and board had to be covered by you. And the way the school set it up was Pell Grant at the time, I think, was like $5,500, and your room and board basically cost $5,500. So if you were a full Pell kid, you were on a full scholarship, more or less. The way we tried to help the kids is we would put them on work study jobs, and the kids who didn't qualify for Pell Grant needed the work study jobs to basically pay for the difference in room and board. So you had kids that were on a work study job of, $4,000 a year. And then you had another kid in the locker room who didn't have anything. He was paying out of pocket or taking loans for his. We still managed to have a team like that. That's nothing different than what you have right now. You just have to have kids that understand what financially is mine is my responsibility. What financially is yours is your responsibility. And at the end of the day, those things go away when we step on the court, because we got to be about winning. And if we're about money, then it detracts from it. And I think that's really been an important focus for Coach in doing this, is that he wants to find kids that want to win and put a collection of them in the locker room together.
Absolutely. And speaking of rosters and wanting to win, with how NIL has looked, it's safe to say a lot of teams go through a lot of turnover each year. And with Coach coming into Indiana, with the roster turnover that left and came in with him, and have you not, how have you, your coaching staff, and Coach D came and like molded the team together? Like, what are like some tips for instance, a new coach coming in obviously needs to win the hearts and minds of the kids, but what are some things that y'all are doing to win over the kids that's either stayed or came in over there in Indiana?
Well, I mean, we had basically 2 walk-ons back was the roster.
Yes.
So it was a total rebuild in terms of your playing group. I think first and foremost, we wanted to get the right people in the right seats. And I think Coach was very intentional on wanting to build a team and not just collect talent. And I think you've seen some of that in the modern era of maybe schools have went out and spent a ton of money on kids, and they're no question produced. Like, you're not paying that dollar figure for guys that are just, average production. But the collection together doesn't fit and it doesn't blend. And I think he was pretty intentional on making sure we got pieces that fit together with each other and that could play well off of each other and give you, each other strength versus I think you see sometimes where you get 5 really talented guys that all need the basketball. And how do those other 4, what do they do when the other guy has the ball? So I think that's really important. And at the end of the day, like I told you earlier, I think these kids, they truly desire everything. And so the relationship piece, I think, is super important, and trying to understand, our why, like, why do we do things? So you understand like what I'm asking of you. And then I understand your why of what drives you. What's your end game out of this? And how can I help you reach that goal? And then when you start to blend those relationships, and, for us, it was a speed dating thing, because it was like, we're here, we're hitting the ground running, we got to get guys. Like, all right, we're just barely getting to know each other, but we got the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico in August, and that really gave us some great interaction in basketball, but also in the social side of things, and wakeboarding and jet skiing and playing volleyball on the beach, like meeting each other in common space and understanding like who you are and what you want out of this. I think that was super important for what we were trying to do so fast.
Awesome. Boudreaux?
Yeah, so we're kind of get a little bit off of it, but it's still in the same realm. What's different about when you were at the mid-major to Indiana now, as far as like the recruiting process? Is it still the same, or is it because now you're at one of the big ones? Is it a little different?
I think it's different. I think you're dealing with different clientele. One, like, the big boys ain't walking in your back door and just snatching your best player every year. I think the last 3 years I was at Bradley, it started with Terry Roberts. We got him out of junior college. He was a really good player for us, a first-team all-league player, and then leaves and goes to Georgia the next year. Next year after that, we win the league. Rink Mass is first-team all-league player. He actually graduated, and I like all these kids leaving. I totally understand. I hold nothing against them. We all have great relationships to this day, because it's a different climate. This is just different than when I played way back in the archaic days. Leaves and goes to Nebraska. Totally understand. He got his degree. He won championships with us. Like, awesome. Here's your chance to go. Now I get to play against him this year. Like, can you graduate already? The next year, Connor Hickman has a really good career for us. We actually go to the NIT. We're playing in Cincinnati, and there's a fan behind our bench that stands up and goes, "Connor, you're going to look great in our uniform next year." Like, fair enough, he transfers to Cincinnati. So it's just a different time where you're like, I don't think that happens to the Power Fives quite as much. Like, you have some attrition and some kids want different things and go to different places. But I think all in all, if you have kids who are having success and enjoying it and all the things, I think you're going to hold on to them a little bit more than the mid-major guys. I mean, if you look every year at the first probably 3 teams in the Missouri Valley and what they lose to transferring, or what the postseason awards look like versus the preseason awards for the following year, they're all new names. And that never was the case before. That's why the Missouri Valley was a good conference, because those guys stuck around and stayed with that same team, and they got old. So I think that's the biggest difference, is you're just not getting hijacked every single time for your best player who's got some eligibility left. 2, you obviously have some greater resources to go after the highest level of player. And when you're talking about the name Indiana, you can forefront it even further higher. But you still got to find guys that fit what you want to do. And that's where the similarity is. I think at every level of basketball, your head coach or your coaching staff has a certain style they want to play, and you got to feed it. You got to put things in place. If you're a fast-paced team, putting a 7'1", 300-pound guy on the team doesn't really do you any good. Like, you're not going to utilize him. So that's where I think there are some similarities in what you're still doing. It's still coaching college basketball, but at the same time, you got a little more resources to help you do what you want to do.
So coming from your story, starting off at Marquette, then being a grad manager at Creighton, then going to Butler, and then Bradley, now coming to Indiana, is there like that new toy excitement where you're really excited that now it's this new chapter in your life, your first game jitters when you open up y'all's season? Is that still going to hit you, or are you just a constant professional?
No, you're human. I mean, I walked into Assembly Hall today, and I mean, you still get chills just walking in that place. I remember the first day I got on campus, and they were showing me through the facilities and stuff. But like, you've seen it on TV, but until you walk into it, it's like, whoa. And then fast forward it to, let's see, we'll play in there next Friday. We'll have our first scrimmage. I mean, it won't be a sellout like, the regular season games will be, but just seeing butts in seats and stuff will be that kind of gradual build up. And then you have the first real one in there, and first time you see 17-2 in there, it's going to be pretty fun.
So I got to ask this question. How excited are you for November 9th? Marquette in Chicago. I'm assuming it's at the United Center.
Yeah.
That going to have a lot of excitement for you from a personal and professional level?
No, like I never really got into the old rivalry thing of like going back to play against people or teams or whatever this stuff is. Marquette has a tremendous program. They've made huge investments since I was playing there, and I couldn't be more prouder of the things that they've accomplished. But in terms of like a personal nature, that's just not how I've ever approached this business. You play against friends all the time, and you want to win and stuff, but end of the day, your friend loses, and so it's there's a pull of competing against Coach DeVries for 6 years when he was at Drake. He's a close personal friend, and so it's like I remember one time during the COVID season we were struggling a little bit that year, and they had a chance to win the league. And we played them. It was back when you were doing the 2 games on a weekend deal, and we beat them with like a very minimal roster. And after the game, the win didn't really do anything for our program per se in seeding or whatever. And then you just felt for your friend who could have potentially lost something from that game. So in terms of the Marquette game, it was exciting to see it on the schedule because it's Marquette and it's a good opponent, but personally, it doesn't really do anything for me.
Gotcha. Boudreaux?
Yeah, since we're on like memories, is there like anything looking back on like player that had a lasting impact on you as a coach?
From the time in college, high school, any time, I guess.
Anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you go through shapes you. I've always said that I couldn't be more blessed with the coaches that I had in my life. My high school coach, he just passed away last year. But I actually got to spend some time with him beforehand, and he was an unbelievable X's and O's coach. Pretty old school guy. Like most of the kids couldn't really relate to him per se in the 90s. But he was a tremendous mind of okay, we got these pieces in high school. We can't recruit who we have. So we got to make some stuff up to make us the best team. And I really felt like that really shaped my mind for kind of the X's and O'ing and how do you give your team the best advantage to win. And then going forward into college and playing for Mike Dean, he was another one that think outside the box. We're going to put our center on their point guard so we can get a better matchup on their 5-man. And I'm like, that's not going to work. That guy's going to go around our center every time. Sure enough, we beat the team by 30. So it was just being around those basketball minds that you're like, okay, this is what I want to do, and learning from them. And then probably Coach Altman, when I was at Creighton with Coach DeVries, tremendous basketball coach. Obviously, he's getting close to 800 wins, one of the very few in the business to do it. And I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a job he's done everywhere. I mean, you just go down the line of every job he's ever had. But, seeing how he was every single day with our Creighton players and the success he had when adversity would hit, it didn't matter. It's like the next guy up, we figure out a way to win. And, but the biggest one was probably my dad. Growing up in a coaching house, seeing how he was a father and a coach, to where you take those things forward and trying to do the best you can as a employee, but really you can't lose sight of what's going on at home either.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Coach Mike Bargen. special assistant to the head men's basketball coach at Indiana University. And Coach, being a head coach, being an assistant coach, all your many stops that you've had, is there any win that or a moment in your career that you're always going to be able to hang your hat on, that you can look back and say, hey, odds might have been stacked against us, something that, hey, we came out, we pulled it out. Is there anything in particular?
I mean, probably too many to recount. There's been a number of different things in terms of beating ranked opponents or being shorthanded or having a lesser team in the rankings, I guess, or being an underdog and finding a way to upset a highly ranked team. Those are all just, there's so many of them. But I think the biggest thing I always take away with is watching how far certain teams can come, because everybody wants to judge you on championships and they want to say that, your job as a coach was unfulfilled because you didn't win everything. And some teams, maybe that's not in the cards for them, but you get them further than anybody ever thought. And I do distinctly remember one of my junior college teams, we had come off of we'd been a champion, tough year the next year, and we were coming back around and no one really thought we were going to be any good. And I think we ended up winning 23 or 24 games. And they were kind of a group that surprised me, I don't know. I don't try to put a ceiling on where each team can go and how good they can be. Just let's see if we can keep getting better. And that group's growth was truly tremendous to watch. So many young kids come in and almost win a championship. They were very, very close, but that's probably the one time I distinctly remember of this is really cool to watch this team that just, they don't put a ceiling on themselves. They're just continuing to get better and better every single day.
Boudreaux?
Bouncing off of that, as a coach, what gets you more excited? Having a team that preseason ranked number one or preseason supposed to win it all, or having a season like that, and knowing that every day you have to wake up, work hard to get the team to your expectations?
They come with different challenges, right? You get the preseason expectation, you're playing with a different set of stress than the guys that are just under the radar, and you're doing the same work. You should be working to the same level in each scenario. Personally choosing, I don't know that I love validation. I love guys having expectation placed on their shoulders to hey, we got to really be on this. But at the end of the day, all teams should be doing the same. If you're doing what you're doing based on what your prediction is, and really, who are the people who are predicting these things? How accurate are they in these preseason rankings?
We hate the media.
If we're putting our self-worth in that and how we're going to approach every single day, then we gotta go back to the drawing board and make sure that what we're intentional about, it's the right things.
I love the rankings because I have a love-hate relationship with the media. It's there's 8,000 basketball colleges. Let's be honest. There's a college everywhere you go for basketball, but they don't go to every college. They'll just say, oh, Indiana's this, or Purdue is that, or Carolina's this, or Duke is that. They're not in the practices. They're not in the film room. They're not in the weight room with them. I love it. And, I just love whenever the media gets proved wrong on that one. So one thing that obviously been coaching for the majority of your adult life, and from the time you left Marquette to now, how do you balance that work and personal life? So as athletic directors, we're always at the school, and it's safe to say that as a college basketball coach, you're going to be at the school a lot, and whether it's recruiting trips, visits, things like that. How do you balance that work life relationship?
I think you work for really good people. When I was at Bradley, each spot has been a little different. So when we were at Butler, our kids were very young, and they actually went to school on our campus as we had an early education thing. So I got to spend a lot of times with them, either driving them to school, and then going to work and then picking them up and driving home. So I got a lot of like time with them. They also aren't very busy at that age. So that's a much easier task. As we got into, our time at Bradley, they started getting into middle school, high school. A couple of them were there before we moved. And so that became a little more difficult, but having a boss that is a good person that understands that we got to be dads first and allows you to be at those events for your children, it's invaluable. It's a must. And just thinking back to growing up, like, I knew there were times that dad just couldn't make it. Like they were going to be on a road game or whatever it was. You have an understanding, like you understand because you grow up in that household. And then now coming here, I mean, I'll give you my weekend. We scrimmaged Friday afternoon at 1:30. At 4, I'm hustling out the door. Coach is like, "Hey man, you better get out of here if you're going to get to that road game." So our oldest son was playing 2 hours away in a football game. Yep. Jumped in the car, went and watched him play. Came back last night. Actually we had the weekend off this weekend and got to take him on a campus visit, like a game day visit. And so that's the balance that you have to have, but you have to have people that you're working for that understand and desire that for the guys around them. Because I do think it's important that you have a balance. If you're just living basketball every single day, I don't think that's a healthy thing for coaches.
Yeah. And you spoke of your son and campus visits. How is it going through the recruiting process with your son? You're watching it obviously from a different lens now as a father. Are you offering him like any advice or anything like that, or are you letting him make his own little way there and just watch him from afar and just being happy and supportive as a father? Probably
more that. He's unfortunately decided he wants to go into coaching too. So
good choice.
trying to help him understand, like, okay, these are the things that you're looking at. And it was fun. It was just a blast. It was the first one I had gotten to go on. My wife has been on all the other ones with him. And football is a totally different animal than basketball in terms of how they do the recruiting side of things. So that's really interesting to me to see the difference between the two. But it was awesome. The school that had us was very welcoming. They showed us all the facilities and the campus and stuff like that. Got to talk to the coaches in the pregame and put kind of a face to name and stuff like that. But it was also a time that as we drove home last night, it was, hey, so I know this is what you want to do. And here's some things that are good. And here's some things that maybe I wouldn't necessarily do if I was in those positions, because sometimes what you say, you just don't need to say everything. And you're better off as a recruiter just leaving them in the feel good and then let it go from there. And so I think it was a good time for us to bounce back and forth ideas of not only in just his recruiting and what he's hearing and liking and not liking, like whatever it is, but also like if you want to be into coaching, do you see these things that can be huge positives for you in how you're presenting your school and your program?
Absolutely, Boudreaux.
On that, though, being a coach and now it's going to be very stressful, especially where you're at. I mean, being a coach period is stressful, but where you're at is going to be even more. How is your family keeping you grounded in all of this?
They love to remind Dad that, you're just that guy that can't hear and see and all the things and says the wrong word. And no, I'm really, really blessed with a tremendous family, starting with my wife. We joke often that I vetted her for 4 years in dating just to make sure she was really ready for this coach's lifestyle.
Sometimes
but really,
it'll be like that, Coach.
Yeah. But I knew, she was one that you just know she's the right one. And, we have a lot of conversations about everything in life is not just wrapped into your job. There's purpose in it. The servant leadership that we need to be doing as Christians in helping these young men, presenting our home for a place for them to feel included, not just in a basketball group, but in a family. all those different things really tend to help you prioritize the winning and the losing. That stuff will take care of itself if we're in the right space and we're doing the right things. We need to focus our attention on the details of it and how we do those things.
Yeah, I absolutely love hearing that. I've always lived by the code. The kids don't care until they know you care.
Yeah.
And that family aspect of it. I mean, you obviously, a lot of kids nowadays, their home lives probably aren't good. And then, you say you get a kid coming from California to Indiana, that's a big lifestyle change, and just having that family around him. And I believe that'll help him out a lot. So when it comes to your family and making this decision to go to Indiana, was your relationship with Coach made it easier for you to make that jump, and maybe your family have a better understanding of making the jump from coming to Indiana, leaving Bradley, going to Indiana? Was that a good little mix? Hey, we know him, we understand what it's like working with him. Did that make the move easier?
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you I'm very selective in what I would choose to even consider, and I don't chase jobs. A guy that Coach and I worked with at Creighton long time ago, Len Gordy, told me when I was really young, he's like, the best job out there is the one you got right now. And I've tried to really focus on that in terms of if certain things present themselves, you consider and, think about how that would affect. But Coach and I have stayed close in the 20 years of difference of when we worked together. Obviously, when we were competing against each other, you have a little different relationship, but I think it was still a strong one, and one where our wives are very close as well. This is kind of a funny story. Not many people know this, but I think it was the year we beat them in the regular season final in Peoria. Unbelievable crowd, great game. Obviously they're down and disappointed. We have to play them a week later. So that was Sunday. We have to play them the next Sunday in the Valley Championship, and they just drop kick us. I mean, it was not close from the start. And it was like, okay, we just literally took a championship from them and then loaded their motivation gun to go, here you go. This is the one we really want because we get to play in the NCAA tournament now. And they had an old group that, had been in that game for several years. But Coach's wife had sent our younger son, Maddox, he was a big Tucker fan. And she had sent him a Tucker DeVries shirt for Christmas. And sure enough, Sunday comes, we lose going into the NCAA tournament. Another week, he comes walking down the next morning in Tucker DeVries Drake shirt. Come on, man. You just had to relive that in my house.
A little salt on the wound.
Right. That's a little bit of the relationship that was there, outside of it. So, taking another job and leaving Brian, who is a tremendous friend, and Leisha, his wife, in case he got very, very close. You're not leaving unless you feel great about the person you're going to work for.
Yeah, absolutely. And Boudreaux?
So you both were at Marquette. What's your coaching philosophy? When was it shaped? Was it shaped there, or was it just some things you learned from your dad and just picked from different coaches you've been around?
I think you learn good and bad in everything that you're at. And sometimes when I say bad, it's what you're comfortable losing with. Everybody has a different style to coaching, and none of them are wrong. It's presented, if we're going to lose a game and it's going to be on my shoulders as the head coach, what am I okay living with getting beat? And then you shape all the things from that. And then the experiences you go through, I think, truly continue to adapt that little by little, where, the guys that are never foul when you're up 3 versus the guys that are I'm always fouling when I'm up 3. Well, those guys have probably gotten beat on a 3, right? That's why they do what they do. And there's those little things that every year you learn piece by piece, from in college where some of that starts to shape. You see some advantage that you can gain from certain style of play, or I want to build my roster this way because I like how that looks, and I'm okay giving up certain things if I can gain certain things. Like, last year, I think we were the number one 3-point shooting team percentage-wise in the country at Bradley until the final game, and we had an awful second half, and it dropped us like that far. I mean, we were really, really shooting the basketball well. Well, in building the roster to do that, we gave up some things and, some physicality and maybe some defensive players and stuff like that. And it had to be one of those things where you ask yourself at the end of the year, like, am I okay losing that way? Or did I really I need a little more physicality? I got to give up a little shooting to get a little more balance. And those are all things that I think you learn year by year. And I think there's times where, you'll work in certain situations and be like, oh man, I love that. I'm never changing that. That's going to stay in my wheelhouse the whole time. And other ones that you're like, I don't want to lose a game because of that. So we're not, I don't want to necessarily do that per se. So I think you just learn in all situations, and you have an open mind and you see what you feel most comfortable with.
Absolutely. And Coach, my last question for you is, it's the same one I ask a lot of guests we have. Say Chad Springer wants to be a college basketball coach. He wants to work his way up through the ranks. What is one piece of advice you're going to give me and when I'm starting my journey?
Man, don't ever say no to a job. I mean, I've always approached it with, like, even here, like, doesn't matter. I'm not too good to go wipe up the sweat off the court. I'm not too good to go class check. Like, whatever there is that you can do, be willing to do it. There is no, it's not my job. And I think the guys that do that, I think you see them rocket up the coaching world. In terms of path, like, I think everybody's got their own path, and none of them are wrong. I started, the one I left out is I started a year after college as a graduate assistant at Lakeland College, and went to work for a great guy, good friend, but learned real quickly that the Division III level is not what I wanted. I didn't want certain things of that. And there's guys that love it. They think it's their life. They live it every single day. But for what I wanted out of it, I felt like there was something else missing and chasing it. And so, like, going to be a GA, going into junior college, going, that route was my route. Other people, that's not what they want. We got 20 managers at Indiana that all want to be college basketball coaches. Like, it's a real thing. They come here in pursuit, and their level of dedication is unbelievable. And they're just trying to get a foot in the door of how can I get into college coaching? And I mean, you look at the success of guys like, that have gone on as Indiana managers, they've found ways into basketball that are high levels. So don't be afraid to take a job and work hard and do the very best at that job. And then, the next one usually finds you.
Absolutely. Boudreaux, final question.
Out of all this craziness that goes on in the world in NCAA, what is the one thing that keeps you waking up in the morning going, I'm so glad I get to do this job?
I mean, for me personally, it's just the guys. Like, they keep you young, and like, our kids are starting to become their age. So it's a changing thing for me, where it was like bringing, toddlers around the guys, and they were just doting over these little kids and things like that. But growing up in a coaching household where we always had extra people in our house, that was the norm. And that's where I feel like this is, God has guided me into doing this, is that you build those relationships, and they don't end after they're done playing. Same thing with, the transfer thing. They may only play here 1 year. That doesn't change that we don't stay in connection and stay in touch and have a relationship. And that's what it's about for me. That's why I get so excited about each new group, of getting to know them and their families and their story and where they want to be with this, and help them chase it. Like, that's the main thing, where you can put all the NIL into this that you want. That's still there. And I think that's the fun side for me.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Coach Mike Bargen. He's special assistant to the head coach at Indiana men's basketball. Coach, we appreciate you being here today. We appreciate you taking time out of your day. And, good luck going into this season. We're going to be rooting for Indiana. I have to legally because my family lives there. So we're definitely going to be rooting for you. And again, we appreciate you being here. And, we love that we got to sit down and share your story for a moment. And, again, I can't say it enough. We appreciate you being here. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break again. This is Coach Mike Bargen. He took time out of his schedule to be here. And we look forward to seeing what Indiana does. Coach, you have a wonderful day. And we'll be right back after a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Coach. And we are back to finish this show and finish this time. Boudreaux, it was a great show. Too bad the Panthers and the Saints both got beat today. It would have been even better for us. But, hey, the positive is I'm still winning in my fantasy game right now for the Thunder Buddies for Life Fantasy League. I'm beating good old Van Hauser. Hopefully I knock him out of first place and I go into first place. But I can tell you right now the Springer picks of the week did not hit this week. I picked the Panthers and it didn't work. There goes my gut feeling. So how are we going to end the show, Boudreaux?
Like we always do, man. Be better.
Be better. If you're not better today, then I don't know what you're doing. Get 1% better today so you can be better tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we appreciate our special guest, Coach Mike Bargen of Indiana men's basketball, for coming on the show today. And hey, Boudreaux, Battle of the Chads this Friday night down there at the End of World Drive. Make sure you have me a hot dog and hamburger ready. And, we'll be rocking and rolling at 7 o'clock. How about that?
Works for me, brother.
All right. Thank y'all for joining us. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you for hanging with the Chads on this lovely day. We'll see you around.